unpopular opinion, but waiting until marriage to have children is a lot different than having children outside of wedlock. And I know there's going to be some people in the comments like, but you can still become a baby mom. Yes, we understand that. However, the truth of the matter remains that people tend to do a better job at vetting who they want to marry versus vetting who they just want to be their baby daddy. And the real question is, why would a woman put her life on the line to give a man a baby who she doesn't even trust to make medical decisions for her, who she doesn't even trust to tie her bank accounts with him, who she doesn't even trust to tie her entire life to him? There is literally no benefit to having a baby daddy other than when you break up and maybe you have a split custody schedule, maybe, just maybe, you can get some child support. And as a divorce attorney, I see that women who get a divorce are less likely to be involuntarily single mothers because they tend to be the ones to actually file for the divorce. And the men that are the baby daddies in that situation tend to participate in the children's life a lot more than when we are just dealing with people that casually had a baby together, who, to be honest, probably did not vet each other at all.
So I didn't know that this woman was a divorce attorney. When y'all sent me this video and I seen it in the title, I was looking at it from the lens of a woman that was just married or whatever. But see, it adds more credence to what she's saying with her being a divorce attorney, because that means that she's been able to see it from both sides. She's been able to see several different examples of women that were married but then wound up getting divorced versus a woman that just had a kid out of wedlock, and then she was going to try to get some child support, and then she had to go back and forth and then fight for it and so on and so forth. But the reality is that it just substantiates the thing that we've been saying for a long time that other cultures have already capitalized off of, and that is you need to marry before you carry. That's what it comes back down to. The very premise of these conversations is that you need to get married, and then the context is that getting married would allow for you to actually be chosen. That means that the guy truly loves you. He loves you enough and he cherishes you enough and he celebrates you enough to want to give you his last name. It also means that he's probably going to be more participatory inside of the children's lives because he has a vested interest not only in you, but you as the mother of his children, because I'm sure that his children is the apple of his eye. We will die for our children. We absolutely will. However, when you look at it on the flip side from the guy that just bust you down and just so happened to get you pregnant, you don't know nothing about him. You don't know whether or not he's going to participate. You don't even really know his last name. You're probably not even really familiar with it. If he don't actually adore you, love you, and then cherish you enough. And again, she said it in this video to you having an ability to be able to determine what happens with his medical information and or if anything was to happen to him, that all of his assets go over to you. Why would you then open your legs up to have a child with him? And see, every single time that I've ever had this conversation with women, they have been unable to answer that question. A lot of people, even guys, a lot of people will then challenge you and say, well, what is the benefits of marriage? And that's a completely different conversation. And if you want to go into that, then we can go into that. But a lot of people will then deviate and they'll try to gaslight you and then change the subject and move the goalposts and say something like, well, I mean, it's the same thing. All it is paperwork. No, it's a process. It's a barrier to entry. It's almost like you saying that a person that's coming over to do a quick job for a contractor is the same thing as an employee. No, you absolutely get the benefits. That means that the person is willing to dedicate themselves to you. That means that they've sworn oath before God. And it's a lot of other, barriers and all of that stuff. But again, I think it comes back down to when it comes to children, when you look at what she said, the premise behind the idea that the person is more willing to participate in a child's life, even if you wind up getting a divorce, right? And let's be clear, I am a huge advocate for updating family court laws. And I'm not looking at it from the lens of the guy because, again, that is a completely separate, different conversation. I have to look at it from the lens of the woman. Women that do not allow for themselves to go through that barrier of entry, you have to question their integrity. You have to question their judgment. And you got to question that with the option to choose for themselves. Why do they continuously choose wrong? Why do you have multiple different children by multiple different guys that's not participatory in that child's life, but yet you want to sit here and hold the men accountable for the person that you choose? That is why guys a lot of times will say, you chose wrong. You know why? Because in this time and in this era where women can choose for themselves, where they can choose to work, where they've leveled the playing field, so to speak, figuratively speaking, as far as your opportunities and what you can and can't do and the jobs that you can get and how you can compete with men. And you don't have to subject yourself to guys in order to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You can go and do a man's job if you want to. We've always understood that no matter what the decisions that we make, good or bad, no matter what our intentions are, good or bad, that we are going to be held accountable no matter what. Accountability is evident. Accountability is key. Accountability will be there for us, waiting on us, kicking in the door. If you don't pay your child support, if you wind up getting divorced, the man is always and 100% of the time going to catch the brunt of whatever the system says, whatever the judge says, whatever the people say, whatever the family members say, and more importantly, whatever the woman is that he's previously been in a relationship with. I mean, that's just a life principle, you know? If we don't work, we don't eat. There is no help. Guys, even in the social media era, can't go online and say, "Oh my God, I'm messed up. I'm homeless. It's so hard out here." Hit the Cash App. They not donating to you. They not looking out for you. I looked at a guy that got fired from his job because he wanted to join in on the whole guy that wound up taking out the Cincinnati police officers because his son got caught in a stolen Kia and all of that stuff. And he got fired from his job, and they hit a bunch of likes, and they say, "Yeah, black man, we with you." But the GoFundMe or the Give Send Go that he created, $0 and 0 cents in it. That's a woman thing. Women can go on there and boo-hoo and cry to pole mouth and act like the world is against them, and then they could possibly, depending on what their situation is, they could possibly get a bag as a result of it. And then the people will say, "Find them, get them their GoFundMe. Where's the money to donate? Girl, put your gun together." That don't happen to guys. And so now that we've understood, okay, over a period of time, what you choose and the decisions that you make, you're gonna have to own it, regardless of whether you agree with it or not, or whether you know it or not. The whole idea behind ignorance of the law does not mean that you don't have to be accountable for what you do. That's a thing that was applicable to men. Now it's applicable to women. And so when you think about that, when you see that, when you see how things are playing out, now you have to start holding women accountable because they can choose for themselves. And so if you choose to allow for a person to have a child with you out of wedlock, and that person does not participate in your children's life, or you think that it's more difficult than it should be dealing with that person after you decide that you had a children with them, we have no sympathy for you. It's hard for us to have sympathy for something that we warned you about. It's hard for us to say, "Oh man, it's not your fault," for something that is your fault when you didn't have any choice, which you say you don't have any choice, but you had plenty of choice, and you knew who that person was. And that's another thing. That's when women lie and say, "I didn't know who he was until after we broke up." You're a liar. You're a liar. You've been lying your whole life, and that's the biggest one that you've told to date. You knew exactly who he was, and you're very smart. And you said that women mature earlier than men, and he didn't just turn on you. He is exactly who he said he was, and he is exactly who he's shown himself to be when you opened up your legs to him. So we got to stop making excuses. We got to stop pretending like we don't know what's going on. We all know what's happening. We all know what's going on. And we need to continue to take accountability and responsibility for our lives, for how our children turn out. That's another thing. They don't want it to be responsible for how their children turn out. And you need to marry before you carry. You need to marry before you carry. You need to be intentional, go through all of the steps, and stop forcing taxpayers to then fund your children's life via food stamps or welfare, and then you feeling like you deserve it as a result of it. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.